So welcome to the talk about Mary Magdalene, Restoring Feminine Power. And I'm talking about Mary Magdalene in the context of divine plan healing. And I'd like just to introduce some of the things that we know about her and some of the things we don't know. So in terms of historical context, there isn't really a huge amount of information about Mary Magdalene. We know that she was from a town called Magdala, which was on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. It was a little fishing town. We know she was a follower of Jesus, that she traveled around with him as he was preaching. So then we presume she must have known him. She had, contact with him. She must have known Mary, his mother. She must have known the apostles and the other people who were there. And if she was with them on a long-term basis, then they must have had some sort of deeper friendship as such. She would have heard the teachings firsthand, and as a woman, she would have interpreted things differently. We know that she was present at a lot of the major events that happened. So she would have heard some of the major teachings. She was there at the time of the crucifixion. We're told the women stayed at the cross, that the men were frightened and were hiding somewhere, the apostles, but the women stayed. She was there to witness this, the death of Jesus. And she was also there at the resurrection. So the women again went back to reclaim the body and were going to perform the rites. And she would have witnessed this. And in that sense, she was very present for a lot of the things that other people mightn't have seen. Now, I should say that this has not got a religious context at all. It's a more neutral space, so that the healing system is not based in a religious belief system, but the names and some of the words are more familiar to us through a religious context. So as a woman traveling around at that time, obviously she must have had resources. We're just trying to figure. Some people suggest that she may have been a businesswoman. She was shrewd, obviously, and capable. She may have been from a wealthy family. Some people suggest that she may have been supporting financially in some way. We can't really say. But she certainly, because she was so long traveling in the company of Jesus and the other people, that she became an evolved spiritual person in her own right. And this is what's really interesting, that she's in this higher level of being spiritually evolved, and what we call the fifth dimensional aspect of being in an area of love, of just unconditional love and wisdom, because the healing system is sent in through this vibration. In terms of history, again, a lot of what people think, first of all, oh, Mary Magdalene, yeah, she was the fallen woman, she was a sinner, she was a prostitute. And that tag has been applied to her, and it's found in many places. So unfortunately, that it means she's denied respect, she's denied status, and her sexuality, or being female or sexuality, is used as a way to discriminate against her, which was not necessarily the case at all. Well, we don't know. And it would make sense, a woman in those times on her own, traveling around with the boys, of course, to say, oh, she's disgraceful. And you can see how it might have happened. But we're trying to sort of move past these tags at the moment, to see past what was said about her and look at what her vibration offers us. So even though her status has been removed in some way, her relevance has come back. A lot of people are talking about Mary Magdalene, an awful lot of people. And you'll find her name turns up in lots of places. It's believed that after the death of Jesus, that she continued to travel and to preach his word, that she embraced it and that she carried that forward. And we know she traveled to France. There's in Scotland some churches linked to her. I think in many countries we find Mary Magdalene, Magdala, a lot of reference to her. So her influence certainly spread far and wide. But again, it's not as well known or not placed in that spiritual context. And the divine plan healing system, what's interesting, it was sent in through her vibration. Literally, a person who was in the middle of a spiritual retreat received this. It started to come in. It came in stages, but received it as it is, as a complete system. And when we go into a divine plan healing space, that the vibration of Mary Magdalene, we call it the love and wisdom of Mary Magdalene. It is, to me, a vibration is like being with somebody who can hold a set standard. She was an evolved spiritual being. She had gone beyond a lot of what was on the earth, and she was capable of holding a standard. So when you go into this healing space, you're in this protected space, but it's all of that vibration of what she embodies and what she offers women, in particular for women. It can apply to anybody, to men as well. But women have been, for generations, have been suppressed. They've been kept down. And this is why, at the moment, things need to be put back into a sort of harmony or balance. And this is one of the ways it can be done. So I'm going to ask the question, well, why Mary Magdalene? Why would she be seen as a role model? Why not choose someone like Mother Mary, the mother of Jesus? I mean, she had to be a very, very pure being to be able to bring in the vibration of Jesus, to allow that to come through in the birth and to nurture him. She was very, very pure, but in a way, an impossible role model to reach. Whereas Mary Magdalene is more accessible. She is not defined in a particular role, and I find this interesting. She's not defined as married. Now, there's suggestions that she was married to Jesus and she was his partner, all of that, but it's only suggested. She's not defined as married. She's not somebody's partner. She's not a mother. If she was any of those things in those times, she would have been at home cooking the dinner and having the children and doing all those things. She wouldn't have been free. But because she's not defined in those roles, to me, she's more like a big sister. You know, if it was your mother, well, there's things we never would have said to our mothers. You know, I mean, who wasn't that little bit afraid? Let's face it. And there were just things you didn't say. And with a big sister, like Mary Magdalene vibration, you can relate to her differently. It's like someone who would look out for you, but she's not going to do things for you. So it's the whole idea of encouraging you, or anybody, any woman in particular, to be strong, to bring forth the qualities that they have. And this is about empowering women. And I think her strength in particular is what gives that edge to this healing, because you can feel that behind it. It's like a cushion of support all the time, the love, the wisdom, but all the qualities that she held. And all of it, because she was an evolved spiritual being, all of it's coming from this higher perspective, this fifth dimensional perspective, which we see as the highest level of unconditional love, which means non-judgment, not judging people. Okay, this was in your life, this happened, you did this, right, okay, look at it, we release it, move on. And this is about progress, and it's about progressing people back to their divine plan. So if I look at some of the qualities that she might have embodied, she certainly had to be a strong woman, a woman of strength, to do what she did, to travel around, to be independent. I'm sure she faced plenty of criticism. I'm sure she came up against the comments and was put in her place and all of that. But we get the feeling that she was able for that. You know, she was able for it, and she was able to rise above it. We know she became a very spiritual person. She must have been independent. She must have been a match for everybody. I'm sure she gave as good as she got. We get that impression about her. Again, the suggestion about her sexuality, she was feminine, and possibly she was sensual. She was confident enough to be sensual, to be feminine, to be a woman. And all of these qualities is something that women are reaching for, but they are kept back. And most little girls growing up are given a caution, you know, be careful now when you go out, and, you know, be aware of strangers. And we have this natural thing for protection, which we need in the world we live in, but it means people hold them back. And a lot of the time, if women express themselves to be sensual or sexual in a very positive, healthy way, even that is somehow it's commented on. All the comments that are thrown out at women on that basis as a way to keep you down and to hold you in. So that aspect of encouraging women to be strong, to be feminine, and to embrace your sensuality of what it is to be a woman, not to be afraid of it, but that you understand it's healthy and it's positive. It also encourages self-acceptance. And a big thing with divine plan healing is to allow healing and to accept self-love and unconditional love. And that is so difficult. I mean, so many people, when you ask them to say the word, I allow myself self-love, they can't say it. They are not able to say it because it's so difficult. And if you've ever been with somebody or in a space of unconditional love, most people just start crying. They just melt because it's so unusual in this world to feel that embrace of being totally not judged, of being so safe that you can open up and let go of so much that you can just reveal yourself to yourself, first of all. And the first thing you're doing is you're discovering yourself, but then you're discovering about your place in the world. So for me, Mary Magdalene was real. She was a very real woman. You know, I mean, God knows what sort of a life she lived. Maybe she did have her ways, you know, maybe she did have her low moments, it's quite possible. But she was able to rise above it and move past it and adapt it to be a very healthy type of lifestyle for herself. And this is one of the things that is very, very important to try and embrace today. So in that sense, her vibration is giving us an awful lot of qualities. And you're trying to help people to hold those qualities. And we're also trying to, I suppose, redefine who she was, let go of some of the feelings of judgment and discrimination that were held against her, but also let go of the judgment and discrimination against many women, because this has been part of women's lives for so long. And very interesting, in 2016, Pope Francis said that the 22nd of July was her feast day. So she's been granted, restored to a status that wasn't there before. And I was just thinking back to my own experience. Many years ago, I worked in a country in Asia, which was very traditional male-female roles. Now, it was a very nice experience. There were really nice people, friendly and helpful. I did enjoy it. But I remember at the time I was working as a teacher, and in the staff room, typical, all the men sat at one end of the room, and then the women sat separately at different tables. So the men, you know, they were friendly, but they kept to themselves. But they were, at one particular day, they were asking me questions. One of them was asking me questions about something. And I mean, I respected the culture. I knew it was confined. I didn't try to provoke anybody, because what was the point? You were in a system. But one of the men said to me, he said, well, that's the problem. You're here on your own. There's nobody to control you. Now, I was nearly 30 years of age at this stage. And the notion of anyone saying, well, there's nobody to control you, was ridiculous. And the smoke was starting to come out of my ears and my eyes and everywhere. But a voice in my head said, now, Mary, just don't say anything. Keep your mouth shut, because I can let fly. Just take it easy. So whatever I said something neutral, and that was it. But it really highlighted for me the perspective. Like, what he was saying was, well, there's no man here to control you. And that's how he saw things. And the whole idea of control is an issue for women across the world, because lots of women don't have control of their own life because somebody else has power. And in many cases, you've got, you know, girls, women sold into marriage, forced into situations that they're not having a say in, many things going on where you get this invisible barrier against you because you're a woman. And this is one of the issues of power and control. Without getting into a rant, you know, I am not in that space at all, but it's of who has control of your life and who has power, because we at some point think somebody else has a right to do that. And in Divine Plan Healing, we talk a lot about empowering women. The power is yours and the control is yours. And you can, when you go into a healing system, you're into this vibration of Mary Magdalene. Like the big sister, she's encouraging you, she's empowering you, but you do it yourself. So you're encouraged to keep a record, a journal of changes that happen. You're told to go away and take an essence. Nobody's going to chase you and see if you've done that. You are taking control of your life. You're looking honestly and truthfully at what's going on in your life. And this is the first stage of taking control. So we're taking healing away from some mystical, spiritual aspect that something is going to come in and land on you, and that's not it. It is about you realizing what's happening in your life and using the vibration and the space you're in to help you to move on. And it works alongside another spiritual light, the Emerald Heart light, which is called the light of truth. It's about facing the truth. And to me, Mary Magdalene was a real woman. She lived in the real world. She faced the real world, the reality. And that's what people are doing, to take our healing into a very practical, grounded sense and allow us to move into that space. So that was my experience of power and control. I didn't stay there for long, but it was interesting. So to me, Mary Magdalene, when we're talking about her, this is a story of hope. It's taking the shame away, which should never have been there at all. She was a strong woman leader. She was a woman of strength. She, I would imagine, was quite capable. She could have been a leader of the other women or organizing the other women as they traveled around. And at all times, I feel that Mary Magdalene is pushing us to find our true self because of our unique identity. And it encourages each person to go into a healing space, and you're dealing with your issues, obviously. But then, after you've got on your feet, you're starting to find a new direction. And that is the important thing. Moving people into their divine plan is unique and individual. And finding your true self is, first of all, weeding out what isn't belonging to you, leaving that aside, and starting to identify, actually, the quality that I have is exactly what I need. So I, for example, have had a tendency to be stubborn my whole life. It's got me into trouble, but it's also saved me, because I think at times that's what got me through difficult situations. It's a combination of stubbornness or determination. Once you've balanced it, it's good. And it's realizing the qualities you have are what empower you. And being in this space, this vibration space of Mary Magdalene, is holding or getting into that standard, being able to reach up and reach into a standard where you can start to find those qualities in yourself and hold them in yourself. I also came across a documentary recently, purely by chance, about Princess Diana, and I know her anniversary was recently. Now, Diana was an incredible person. She had her problems, she had her flaws, but I think we all recognize the humanity of who she was. And an interesting comment stood out to me. The interviewer said why she felt she was seen as a threat. And they said, well, why? Why do you think you were a threat? And she said, every strong woman in history has had to walk a similar path. I think it's the strength that causes confusion and fear. Why is she strong? Where is she getting the strength from? Where is she taking it? How is she going to use it? And maybe fear is a lot of the thing about women, that a woman's ability and power is phenomenal. Of the potential of women that is not out there in the world. And getting that potential fully harmonized would be incredible. And this is part of the divine plan. So it's something we have to overcome again. We're breaking down an impression of what is possible. So we break down the impression of Mary Magdalene as the sinner and see her in a totally different light. And again, breaking down impressions of women, of what they are and how they are, the real people. Women are real people. So instead of being undermined or less relevant, they become more relevant to our world. It's helping the old life to surrender to the new life. You're moving into a different phase. Mary Magdalene could do that. She left her old life. She left whatever problems or issues were there, and she followed Jesus, but she became a spiritual person leader and took it to a whole new level. Everybody is capable of that. So it's the guiding and the leading the way. I'm sure she had her doubts and her fears, but she overcame them. And I just get the feeling I would have liked to have met Mary Magdalene. I think you could have sat down and had a good old chat with her. And I get the feeling there was life in her, that she had a bit of jizz in her. And you can imagine opening a bottle of wine, sit down, have a good old chat, maybe get Jesus to work another miracle, give him a bottle of water, and off you go. But I picture that with her. Now, without being disrespectful to the healing vibration that she held, but to me, she's like this bouncy friend. If you've got this good friend, someone who's lively and bouncy, but you love to be with them. And when you're with them, you start to feel better. And you start to feel like your problems are dissolving, they're not so important, and they're able to take you into a different space. And they seem to hold that space. And this is going into the energy vibration of Mary Magdalene. She seems to be able to hold a space, or she is able to hold this higher vibration, spiritual space, but at the same time has all those real qualities that people need. And I know I'm focusing a lot talking about women because the women have been held down. It's more obvious and more open and at the surface the ways that women are held back. But the same thing is happening for men. Many men are held back as well, but it's in a different form. It's not as obvious. So a divine plan healing works not just for women, but it works for men as well. But I suppose it's focused more on this issue at the moment. It is a process. It's about holding responsibility. It's about empowering people. And I feel that her energy and her vibration, her standard, is what holds us in that space and gives us a chance to try and reach a level of healing that I think is grounded. And people approach healing in different ways. Some people need to start by going into a familiar space that gives them, meditation. They feel good, it's light, it's easy. But healing is dealing with your stuff, your issues. Whatever it is, you've got to be practical. There's no point floating off into the heavens, and that's not real. It's real grounded practicality without getting bogged down in it. It's about getting people to dissolve issues that are there, move them on, get people into a better space, empower people. And this is the Mary Magdalene that I have come to see and to feel very much, because during a healing session, the light flows, can feel very, very powerful, the Emerald Heart light, but underneath it and around it, there's always this cushion of support, which I feel is just this love. It's just pure, non-judgmental love. It's gentle and it's nice, but it's not going to, what's the word, caretake you. It's not caretaking. This is about people taking control of their life. And once you've done that the first time, you'll find you can step into the next session more easily. You stop tolerating things that are not good for you. You won't tolerate people that are not helping you. Slowly, gradually, you start to move yourself on. And this is the power it gives you. It's about empowering people. So that is the basis of what I wanted to say today. Thank you.